Espresso tools. There are a lot of them and it can be a bit overwhelming, so today we're going to look at each of these items and talk about how they can improve both the quality and the consistency of your espresso right at home. Hello, my name is Stephen Holm and I'm with Homegrounds, a place that you can go to learn more about brewing and enjoying better quality coffee right at home. Thank you so much for clicking on this video, taking a look at it. If you enjoy this content, be sure to subscribe, give this video a like. It really helps us and it helps you so you can see more videos just like this. So like I said before, today we are taking a look at all of these different espresso accessories, or espressories, if you will, that are designed to help you improve both quality and consistency of espresso at home. Now, a quick word up front, you may notice that a lot of these items are from a company called Normcore. They are not sponsoring or paying for this video in any way. In the past, I've reached out to them, they sent me some products to get feedback on, and when I had the idea to make this video a few months back, I reached out to them because I knew that they made all of these products and that I like the build quality. And I just said, hey, I'm making this video. Would you be willing to send me some of these products to use as examples, and I can kind of showcase some of the things you're making. And then they are also doing a giveaway in this video with details later. Now, last thing before I dive into talking about each item, we're not going to be going into full reviews of any of these items, nor are we going to look at how they specifically affect extraction. There's no real testing in this video. That could be for a future video. Today we're just looking at what these items are, how they work, and if they may be good for your espresso workflow. So if you own an espresso machine, you know what a portafilter is. It is this thing that has a handle that holds your espresso grounds that you insert into the machine. Now there's a couple different types of portafilters out there. There's the typical one that comes standard with most machines that has these spouts, like this one here. You can see this has two spouts coming out the bottom. It is meant to separate a double shot of espresso into two singles. Versus we have this style here, which is called a bottomless portafilter. Now, not only does it just kind of look cool, but it allows you to actually visualize the extraction coming out of your espresso basket. So you can see if you have any channeling, you can see if there's one side that you're favoring with your tamp. It provides a lot of instant visual feedback on your espresso. This one in particular is from Normcore. There's a lot of other companies that make them. I also have this one that is from ECM. There's a lot of different styles. Just make sure that it is made for the specific espresso machine you have. There's a few different types that turn in. So we have the E61 style, a few different manufacturers have different types. Just make sure it's compatible with your machine, but these are a great way to really begin to visualize how your espresso is extracting. Now, moving right on from the portafilter, we need a basket to go in here. And a big upgrade from the typical baskets that come with a machine are precision baskets. This one in particular is from VST, and there's a few things that make this really great. First off, it has straight sides. So that differs from a lot of espresso baskets that have slanted sides. And the issue with having any slants is just that you want your puck to be as even as possible. So if you have sides that are slanted, you may not get as even of an extraction as if you have flat sides. On top of that, VST manufactures these to very precise specs. So we have holes in here that are all the exact same size. They're all evenly spaced out. And those things may not seem like big deals, but they help brew better quality espresso and make it more consistent. The next thing we're looking at is the Tamp Mat. These are meant to both protect the counter that you are pressing your portafilter on and tamping, but also to protect the bottom of your portafilter itself. Especially if you have a portafilter with spouts, you want to make sure you're not putting too much pressure on those over time. So we use a Tamp Mat to give us a little bit more forgiveness. It also provides a more even surface and just a nice clean little area to get all of your espresso preparation done. Now I have a couple examples here. This one is from Normcore. It's a little more rigid and not as flexible. It has a sort of textured pattern on the top and it has this ridge, so it's meant to sit on the edge of a countertop. This one is a cheaper one I got on, I think, Amazon by Coretto. It is more flimsy, which isn't a bad thing at all. It probably provides a little more cushion and sits on the edge. Nothing wrong with either of them. Pretty much any Tamp Mat is gonna do mostly the same things. It's just a matter of price and how big you want it to be. Now the next thing we're talking about is a little water spray bottle. Now what we're doing with this is we are using a spritz of water on our whole beans before dumping them in the grinder. What that's going to do is reduce the static during the grinding process. And so this is both going to allow us to get more coffee grounds, so less retention in the grinder, and also reduce some clumping. Now, some grinder manufacturers do not recommend doing this, especially if you use too much water. We're just doing a very tiny little spritz here. So just know that you may be voiding a warranty if you're doing too much, but a little bit of water can really help with static. So now that we've ground our coffee and we need to dump it in our basket, a small thing that I recommend getting is a dosing ring or a funnel. This just sits on top of our basket and helps reduce mess because the grounds are really going to take up a lot of that basket. So it gives you a little more room on top to both dump them in and use our next item, which is a WDT tool. Now this is basically just a little tool that has some acupuncture needles, and we are going to take that and stir our espresso grounds, hopefully removing all of the clumps out of there. So this is a great little tool. They are fairly new, but there's a lot of different models out there. I prefer ones that have a more flexible needle on there. I find that they work a lot better. One like this is super cheap. This one is actually from a shop that was recommended from a Lance Hedrick video. I will link it in the description. They're just an Etsy shop, and he 3D prints these and I believe just puts acupuncture needles in here. So it's a great little device, really cheap. I like getting one with a base so that I can easily sit on there and you don't have these little needles just sitting around. So now that we have a basket of coffee grounds that is ideally void of many clumps, we would remove this funnel, and the next step that a lot of people will take is using what's called a distribution tool. Now these are just these little devices that have usually a ridge down the middle. There's a few that are designed a certain way. There's like the OCD tool, which has these sort of waves around the outside, but they all work in the same way, and what they're trying to do is make our bed of coffee grounds even on the top. So we're just going to take this on here, place on, and spin a few times, thereby making the bed of coffee grounds really even at the top and ready to tamp. Now there is some debate on whether or not these are, first of all, even beneficial, but then also if they're really making that much of a difference. I'm not going to go into that today because a lot of people like these. I like using them. They make a nice bed of coffee that is ready to tamp with. This one from Normcore is real nice. You can unscrew the sides and then adjust the depth of the distribution, which that's important because you don't want it to be too deep. We don't want to tamp any of the coffee grounds here, but you also want it to actually be doing something. So you can adjust the depth on there. It has a nice little stand for it. So yeah, this is a really great distribution tool. It's built really solid. Distribution tools, that's what they are. That was such a weird transition. Next, we're gonna be talking about tamping, and I actually have 4 examples of different sort of types of tampers here. First off, this is the one that came with the Lilith Mara X, no frill sort of tamper, just has a handle and a solid stainless steel base. A few other examples of ones here from Normcore. This one is another handled tamper, and it's a little different in that it has this component here that's going to sit on the edge of your basket and then press down, and the base is on a spring here. So this is going to do a few things. Thanks to this ridge up here, you're actually going to promote a more even tamp. I mean, hypothetically perfectly even, because there's no flexibility in here. So when you press down, since this is level with the basket, your tamp is going to be perfectly even. Now, another benefit to this tamper is the spring inside, because it's set to a certain amount of pressure. So when you are applying this, you want to tamp the same amount of pressure every time to obviously promote consistency. And thanks to that spring, you are getting the same pressure with every shot. And they actually provide a few different springs that you can swap out. So this is definitely my new favorite tamper. I love using this. It comes with a little stand. Now, the next type of tamper that is becoming really common these days is what's called a palm tamper. It works in the same sort of way where it rests on the sides of the basket and you press down with a spring that's inside of here. And once again, that's going to promote a really even, consistent bed of coffee grounds thanks to this really flat tamp, but it is also removing this handle, which can promote some fatigue and wrist issues. If you just have a palm tamper, you just have to, press down. It doesn't matter. You don't have to hold your arm at like a 90-degree angle or anything. So these are really popular, really a nice option. And now a lot of companies, Normcore included, have a 2-in-1. So one side of this is a distribution tool, the other side is a tamper, so you get both in one. You don't have to have, you know, two separate things. So we will just take this, distribute, flip it over, and then you can tamp. So obviously you have a lot of different options for tampers out there, but there are a few things that you really want to look for. First off, and probably most importantly, is you want a tamper that fits your basket. So like here's the tamper that you would use for the flare. You obviously don't want to use that because it doesn't fit the basket. That's pretty obvious. But taking it a step further is you want the edges of the tamper to reach all the way to the edges of the basket. Because if your tamper isn't reaching all the way out to the edges of your basket, you're missing some coffee grounds out there that aren't being compressed with your tamper, so you're not gonna get an even extraction. So even though these are said to be 58mm baskets, a lot of tampers now will be, say, 58.55 is what this Lalit one is, because it reaches all the way to the edges and you don't have any wiggle room in there. So that's the first thing I would look out for if you're looking at upgrading your tamper. And the second thing is I would recommend sticking with a flat base tamper. There's a lot of different styles of bases out there that will make different claims on promoting a more even extraction or something, but from what I've read and from the tests I've seen, just get a flat base tamper. Don't worry about any of the other things. Now the last thing we're talking about is relatively new, and that is a puck screen. These are just a metal screen that you place on top of your coffee bed, and they are trying to do a couple things. First off, they are trying to reduce channeling because we have our water hitting the screen and not hitting our coffee directly. So hopefully it's going to reduce channeling and therefore give us a more even extraction. But then also they are providing a barrier between the coffee and the group head. So hopefully we have less of a mess when brewing our espresso. Now I can vouch for the second thing. They really do provide a more clean experience when brewing espresso. You don't have coffee coming up and getting in the shower screen. So that is a really great thing. As far as reducing channeling and improving extraction, I haven't done any testing with these. That could be a future video if people are interested. Let me know in the comments down below. Normcore has a couple different thicknesses of these based on how high your bed depth is in your basket. And they also have this little stand for them, which is handy. So those are all of the tools that you can use for your espresso to hopefully improve both the quality and consistency of your brewing at home. If you have any further questions or want us to go more in detail on any of these things, let us know in the comments down below. Be sure to enter our giveaway in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy brewing.